Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Roberta Colasino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator coming to you from Pompano Beach, Florida for a few more weeks. All right, just gotta get my iPad going. I hope everyone's had a good week. I hope wherever you are, you're having some good weather. We are having some good weather here in South Florida. It was a little iffy to begin with, but it's getting better. Although last week we had some super heavy rains. Nothing like what they had in Hawaii, so I'm really feeling for the people in Hawaii. Obviously the people who live there full time, but imagine going to Hawaii for a vacation and finding yourself in a flooding situation. All right, my iPad is an older iPad, and lately it has not wanted to connect to the internet, but it seems like it connects to the internet on some things and not others, which I know doesn't make too much sense. I'm pretty sure that I know I'm here. Hey Audrey, how are you? But I can't always tell if I'm here because I can't see me. But I will assume that I'm here. I'm going to go ahead and just put the camera down so that we can get started. All right. Just make a couple of adjustments here. All right, close enough, I think. All right, so, like I said, I'm Roberta Colasino. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and my business name is 11 Lakes Stamper. And if you're watching me tonight, you are on my Facebook group. It's a public group. Anyone can join. 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives, and also I have a YouTube channel where things started getting transferred over from this Facebook group to YouTube once Facebook decided to no longer save our videos, our live videos, for more than a month. So if for some reason you're not paying attention or you don't use Facebook that often and you have family videos that you posted a long time ago on Facebook, they are unfortunately gone. And if you continue to do that and you want to save them, you would have to transfer them over onto a YouTube channel. It's honestly not all that difficult to do. You just kind of have to catch on to it, and there are lots of videos and tutorials out there to show you how to do it. Okay, looks like I'm here. That's good. All right, if you are interested in shopping with me or buying any of our products, you can shop with me at www.rcolasino.stampinup.net. All right, so that's that. We have a new catalog coming out in May, so for those of you who don't know that some things have changed, if you are used to seeing a big annual catalog coming out sometimes, oh, it says reload, okay. If you're used to seeing a large catalog coming out in early April, that's not going to happen anymore. Rather than having one annual catalog, we're going to have, I think it's three or four smaller catalogs, but they're not going to be called mini catalogs, and they will contain all of the supply type products that you normally need to buy. All right, so that very much like the sentiments. There's a graduation one, which seems kind of random that it's thrown in there. There's a thank you, there's a for you, take care. And I very often sign cards with take care for myself. And I don't know that I've ever seen that before, so I'm happy to see that. So very happy for you, which would be great for promotion, wedding, engagement, you name it, graduation certainly. And then I'm here for you if you need me. I like that one a lot, and I just actually wrote that to someone in a text message the other day. I've finally given in on the fact that sometimes serious conversations are going to happen in a text message, especially if you're talking to a younger person. So anyway, and then what I call a guest appearance from the Lasting Linen, which is a background stamp set, and it's really very cool, and I'll show you how I used that as well. All right, I did have to do some of the prep ahead of time, but I'll explain to you, I'll walk you through everything that I did. And if you have any questions, please get back to me and let me know. All right, so I used Gorgeous Grape for my card base. And of course I do not see my bone folder. I think I was using it for something else. I also used Highland Heather and the Eyelet 3D embossing folder, which is just really pretty. Oh, I do have a little bit of a cord hanging in there. I switched cords and I knew that was going to be a mistake. I thought using a shorter one might be a good idea, and instead I think it was not such a good idea. There, I think that's mostly out of the way now. Okay, maybe that'll work. Background. Okay. And this is actually the inside of the card. After the fact, I probably should have gone all the way over to the top, up to the top. So this is obviously, these are sunset colors. I started out with Daffodil Delight and then moved up to Peach Pie and then Strawberry Slush and Real Red and then Highland Heather. And I should have just made all of the strips wider and had it go all the way to the top. I was thinking about leaving a place for writing, but really with a dark pen you could write over all of this except maybe this stuff back here. So I could have done that differently, but once it was done, it was kind of done, and I think it's fine. So that's the inside. All right, and so this is one of those cards that's going to go this way. All right, doesn't really matter. It could go this way as well, whichever way you like. And then I wanted to show you how I created this. So how I created this was I took a piece of white paper and I used basically those same colors that I just described to you, and I colored them all over to make sure that they were going to be big enough to handle the die that's this out. So this is the piece that comes out of this when you cut this out, and I knew that that's how big I needed this insert piece to be. So when it came time to cut this insert piece, I put the black piece over it. This is what I had, and I cut, leaving myself a little bit of a margin around the edges so that I would have the ability to at least temporarily put this in place until I glued the whole thing down on top of here. All right, now I could just use a piece of tape to hold this on. The other thing really that I could do would be to, well, first of all, let's go ahead and put this on. That's one less thing to worry about bouncing around. And then just make sure that you've got the opening where it's supposed to be. We've all had that oops where we glued something onto a card upside down. In this case, it probably wouldn't matter because it's just the background, but when you're doing an image or designer series paper that is directional, the last thing you want to do is glue it on upside down. I'm using a little more glue than usual because I've got an embossed piece of paper here and I need to make sure that the paper catches all the spots. Okay, and then I'll take a little more time pressing it down than I usually do as well. The glue takes hold pretty quickly. This is the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue. It's a multi-purpose glue. A lot of people just call it the green glue. The glue obviously is not green, but the bottle has green on it, so that's why people call it that. But I like the fine tip bottle, so I transfer some of it into that. Okay. And then we have this down and then glue the other part on top of it, as opposed to trying to assemble the two parts. That might be a little tricky. Alright, I just want to make sure that I get it kind of dead center. I think that's the way I want it. And not too crooked, although with an image like that, cat of nine tails, with an image like that, it really wouldn't matter if it was tipping a little to one side or the other. They blow in the wind and they bend, so that would be pretty natural looking, I think. Hello Karen, how are you? Are you back home from your travels yet, or are you still traveling a little bit? So I'm just putting little dots of glue here and there, because we really don't want too much of this oozing out all over the place. But we also don't want pieces of it getting caught going in or out of the envelope. So this is just a way to make sure that that doesn't happen and that your card doesn't get ripped. Okay, and then we're just going to very carefully place that over. I'm going to pick it up so I can look at it head on and make sure it looks right. Tiniest bit of white showing over there, and if that really bothered me, I could take a black, really super fine tip marker like the micron pens that I've showed you before, and I could just go over that very gently with that black to cover that up. But honestly, I don't know that anybody but me could see that. Alright, so then the next thing that happened here was this particular stamp set has well, it has two things. It has a die, nope, I take it back. It has a stamp for a really small, like a baby dragonfly, but it doesn't have a stamp for a larger dragonfly. But it does have a die, and the die is kind of a lacy die. You can see there that it has like an opening, and it's kind of lacy. That's the word I would use to describe it, as lacy. So what I did was I took just a piece of white cardstock, and I just kind of played a little bit. Also in the dies, there is a die that cuts out two of these little bodies for the dragonfly. Which I'm sure you all do, but just for that, I want to show you that this one looks unusually colorful, and that is because I took a scrap of designer series paper that I had kicking around. I think it's something that I've used on and off for the last couple of weeks. I did the back of one of the envelopes with it last week. I took that scrap of designer series paper, which really had like a bunch of flowers on it, but once you, oh, come here, I never go to the right spot first. I think I'm right under the camera and then I'm not. Okay, so basically this was a piece of designer series paper with lots of flowers on it. But once you cut it out with the die, you don't see the flowers anymore. You just see something really pretty and colorful. So that's what I did to make that one kind of colorful. And there is a tiny bit of purple in there, but I also took some and brushed them with a blending brush. In like this one, I used, I used Highland Heather, And then I used, just on the tips, using the blending brushes again, a little bit of Gorgeous Grape, so that it was a little bit darker on the edges, on the tips. Okay? Well, I just never get it right. I think you might be seeing the whole thing. I'm looking at a very small screen. There we go. And then I went over it with a little wink of Stella, so it's got a little sheen to it. I don't know if you can see that or not. So I've got a couple like that and a couple of different ones. And then I did do one of the baby ones, but I didn't use the stamp. I just used the die, and I just used the body. So again, not exactly sure what I was going to do here, but my thought process was that just fun, and because they would be pretty, that I wanted to glue some of these down on here. And now I'm almost thinking I want some more contrast, so maybe the purple's not what I wanted. Maybe I want those sunset colors. Yeah, see, look at that. When you do the purple, it just kind of blends in and it gets lost in there, doesn't it? So let's not use the purple. See, and I was all gung-ho on the purple, but now I'm thinking no. So I could possibly put this up with some mini dimensionals, which I probably still have to cut into little pieces. And of course, I did not bring my Teflon scissors in here. So that means I would have to use my good scissors, which is fine. I can clean them. Oh, so here's the Designer Series paper that I was telling you about that I used. So as you can see, it's very floral. Very floral. Let's see if I can get away with this. I'm going to have to cut this really, really skinny. Okay. Maybe that's just a delay. Yep, there we go. It's a delay. I really do not want to see the dimensional. So I think that's really going to be the only one I'm going to be able to use. Is just one tiny little piece up on the body. And then to make sure that nothing gets caught, I can put some glue on the bottom part of the body, and maybe a couple of bits of glue on the tips of the wings, and maybe press those down. And I just kind of want to have those sort of flying around in the background, or I think I have more room down here. Up there's less room. And, well, wait a minute, we've got more room on him to put the dimensional, so let's do that. Unfortunately, okay, I was just trying to see if I could figure out a way to see comments, and so far it's just not going well. I know it's not just me, because I've heard some other demonstrators say that they suddenly can't see comments when they're on their iPad. On the computer, it's a different story. But on the iPad, it just seems to not be working. And, you know, they change things so often between Facebook and YouTube that sometimes it's just hard to know what the latest thing is that's happened, because it's not like they send us a memo letting us know. You know, they really don't. We just have to figure it out as we go along. Alright, so we're going to put the little one up there, like he's kind of coming in for a landing. I'll press that down a little bit. And I feel like I'm going to want to put a tiny bit of glue under his tail. There we go, a little bit of glue. And I'm going to hold that down for a couple of seconds. Alright. Yeah. I'm use them. No, we're not going to be able to use them on the next card because the colors would be all wrong. And you see, this was a scrap of paper that I had done some practicing on. And with our white cardstock, unlike some of the thinner cardstocks out there, you will not be able to see that through the cardstock. So I could even have something stamped in black on there, and it is not going to show through when I put it down. Now if I hold it up to the light, you might be able to see it, but once I glue it down to a card base, you will not be able to see even the black images. Okay, so you can definitely write on this, and you can write on it all the way down to here. Just use a black pen and you'll be fine. So there we go. That is card number 1, and I just really like that a lot. So card number 2, we used the same bundle, but the lasting linen for a background, and we also used, which I didn't use before, we used, we didn't use that dye. We used the flower and we used dragonflies again. And I think we're going to use this. I'm here for you if you need sentiment, and I use this stamp, which is really pretty, and I used, no, I didn't use any cattail. And the last thing is the stamp is about this big, so it's big enough to cover an entire front if you need it to be that big. Right? So what I did here, again, I didn't want to do this in front of you only because I've got a table here. It's different from what I have at home in New York, and if I were to put the cut and stamp and emboss machine, and I want you to use the whole table as my kind of makes me feel like Alright, so I get my pin back in that glue so it doesn't dry up. So I used the Summer Splash cardstock for the base. Remember, that is retiring, along with Shy Shamrock, Petunia Pop, Pretty in Pink, and Darling Duckling are all retiring. So if you have those ink pads and you don't have the re-inkers, it's time to get them. All right, and then I also used Soft Seafoam as the ink color that I stamped on the white piece here. All right, and that's using the linen. Here and rolled it back. I didn't squish this part, okay? Now, I wanted you to see how I lined this up. So what I did was I just put this down with a tiny spot of glue, all right? Because I wanted to stamp through to do that. So that's, you know, in other words, I did not want to do that on camera. But now I will glue this down properly, and I'm going to really have to hope that I get it right, because if it's crooked, it's not going to look good. It's not going to look good at all. Alright, so a good way to do this may be then put it down. Like I said, I did not want to do this completely off camera because I wanted you to see what I was doing, but that could have been a mistake. There we go. Wait, oh, okay. I just have to zhuzh it a little bit. There we go. So now you can see that stamped image through the little window there. And in that stamped image, that's where I'm going to stamp my sentiment, which I decided would be, I'm here for you if you need me. I don't think I did a, whatever you call it, I don't think I tested this one. Like sometimes I use a piece of scrap paper, not tested it, what do I call it? Like breaking it in. So let me see if I can find a scrap. In my desk at home I have a basket with a pile of scrap paper over on one side. Here we go. I have this, I forget what year this calendar is, but my daughter bought it for me. It was all cats. And I decided instead of throwing it out when the year was over, I would save it because it's great for writing notes on and things like that. So I don't know if I want to do it in black to have the contrast, or if I want to stick with the summer splash. I'm almost thinking black, or my other favorite for stamping sentiments sometimes is basic gray, just because it's not as dark. I think I'm going to go with the black. And of course at this point, if I mess up my stamping, yeah, well, you know what happens. I'm just kind of out of luck, as they say. Alright, so and of course my test stamps will be perfect, because they always are. And then when I go to do it for real, that's when I'll probably run into a problem. But I'll try to think positive. Just going to clean that off. So that's my way of priming the stamps. If they're new photopolymer stamps and they've never been used, we think there's like a kind of a film that goes onto them in the manufacturing process. Stamp and see if you've at least got enough ink on there, which does not guarantee to stamp it properly or straight. And I hold it down for a few seconds. I'm not actually pressing super hard, I'm just holding it down. Oh, look at that. Okay, I love when that happens. It's, no, it's really not that crooked, it's fine. And I do that just to make sure that the ink takes a minute to soak into the paper. Alright, so now this is kind of blah, so that's why I have some other things here that I'm going to try to decorate with. So I've got a couple of, oh, I thought I had two of those, but maybe not. And then I've got the butterfly, or not the butterfly, the dragonfly. Right, and I think I thought I did a couple of extra bodies, but maybe that's the only one, and that's fine. Although I have two dragonflies and only one body, so that's a little weird, but we'll see what we can do. Alright, so my idea was to kind of put these around the edge here, but they're going to blend in with that. I'm also thinking I need some kind of a blingy thing in the center of that. Something. And I filled my bling basket with cards, which was not a good idea. So let's get those out of there. I'm trying to keep all of the cards that I make while I'm here in one place. So I think I'm going to have to, let's see what we've got here. Well, I certainly don't want to pick these up the top there. Oh, wait a minute, what are these? These are the neutral matte dots, and I honestly am not sure if they're retired or not. I gotta tell you, but I think I like that. I think I like the black, so we'll go with that. And then I'll need your, might take your pick tool, which I know I brought with me here. There we go. All right, and these are good, but they're going to not stand out against that, so I think we should put some of the darker greenery down first. And then maybe put flowers on top of them. What do you think? This just seems like kind of odd by itself. I don't know. Normally when you have ribbon or something that you want to curl, you use the scissors to curl it. If you've got something all curled, and you gently use something like not your blade part of your scissors, but just the other side of the scissors, it actually straightens it. So if you don't want it to be too weird and curly, that's kind of a good thing to do. All right, let's see. I don't know if I can get a double bow out of this or not. Let's see if I can. Might not have cut it long enough for a double. No, not long enough for a double. We'll go for a single. But we can make it kind of big and floppy. All right, let's see. Sometimes tweezers would come in really handy for some of the small stuff. I also have to get my glue dots. So let's see, oh, I do have tweezers here, yay. Glue dots, tweezers. Okay, and hello Holly, I think you were on here last week too, and I saw your name flash across the camera, but then I forgot to remember what the name was, and so I didn't get a chance to make a little comment saying thank you to you, but thank you for watching. It's always nice to have somebody new watching. All right, so with the glue dots, I just kind of roll them with my fingernail a little bit so that they're kind of like a log shape, because I don't run it showing behind this. It's not really ribbon, it's a linen thread, and it's not very thick. And then I'm going to place that kind of right here, and it's okay if some of this goes over. You just have to be careful putting it in the envelope. All right, and we'll try to get that down here. And then let's see, I'm going to pick this up here, and then get, oh, and this was a back of some designer series paper, maybe that same one, and I just used it because it had the summer splash on the back. So a lot of our designer series paper that might have a kind of a busy pattern on the front has a solid or a not so busy pattern on the back, which is really nice. And even with holiday patterns, sometimes the back will have nothing to do with the holiday, and so therefore you can use it after the holiday or before the holiday. All right, so I'm going to kind of stick that, I don't know, maybe I don't want to stick it. Oops, so that it's out a little bit more. It doesn't get completely lost in the same color. And there are green flowers, I'm sure there are. There are flowers in every color, but I just kind of didn't want to throw in a pink or a red. I don't know, I guess I certainly could have, but for whatever reason I didn't think I wanted to. All right, so let's take a look at these. I'm going to go for a pretty small one. These don't seem to have a medium. They just have small and large. I think the large would be too big. So these have adhesive on the back of them already. There you go. I like that. That does give you a little pop of color as well. And then maybe this one, well, that should probably be here too, though. At this point, I'm thinking I would have liked to have another one of these big ones. But I will make do with this. Who knows? You know me, sometimes I change it up later on after I go off the air, but I think it's okay. Not everything has to be symmetrical. Okay. So we'll put that right up against that. Press it down a little bit. And then I'll get the smaller of the two flowers and get some glue on that. remember last week was all about the envelopes, and what did I say? I said that I needed to remember to bring envelopes near where I was working on so that I could also decorate the envelopes. And I did. I have some sitting on the desk, but I now don't have the things available to me that I would want to decorate them with, because I might have to do some more die cuts. I could maybe do some of the little dragonfly stamps, because gluing things onto an envelope it's okay to do, but it can be iffy because it can just get knocked off going through the machines at the post office. So it doesn't always work. Okay, I'm happy with that. I like that. I'm glad I thought to use the twine. So now let's take one of these dragonflies and one of these. See, now that's purple on the back because I was using that same paper that I used as like background paper for that other thing that I was doing. So, oh, no, it goes on the front. I did one and I put it on the back and it didn't look right. I realized that was a mistake. Now that I think about it, I think that die that does two of these bodies, I think one of the bodies is shorter than the other because it's meant for the little baby dragonfly. And I don't think I caught on to that. I think I thought there was just one size and just two of them. But I don't think it matters. That's always what I say when I make a mistake. I have put some darker green on this, the purple ones, just to make that stand out a little bit more, but I think it does still stand out. Right, and I'm pretty happy with that. I have no complaints, so I hope that you liked it as well. I think this is a great set. I think the background stamp is also great because it's subtle. It doesn't jump out at you, but it's really nice, and I think I can do a lot with that in the future, for sure. I was even thinking about, for my journals, what that might look like stamped on a book page in like maybe pecan pie or crumb cake or something like that. I'll have to play around with that. All right, so 2 cards tonight, and I will post if I do anything with the envelopes. Usually, I say very often that I might get this done tonight, but I know I won't because I don't even know what time it is at the moment because my watch died. Yeah, it's 8:38 and I haven't had dinner yet, so I probably will not get that done. I've got to fix that piece of dimensional is just a little too big. All right. I haven't decided. I'm just kind of feeling like I want to stay here. Not forever, but just a little bit longer. All right. Thanks again for watching me, and have a great week.